Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Money in the Law on my FM 101.3, your neighborhood radio station, as well as the Holliston Cable Access TV, your neighborhood TV station, with your host, Jay Marsden from the Marsden Law Group, and I'm John Drohan from Main Effort Financial. We are your hosts of your favorite Saturday morning show, Money and the Law. There's a little bit of conflict, a little bit of static here today. Nothing bad.
It's controversy. Unrelated. Remember, everybody, we record this on Wednesdays. All the controversy here in the studio is unrelated to the inauguration. It's unrelated to the departure of the 45th President of the United States. It's got nothing to do with the incoming 46th President of the United States.
It's got nothing to do with politics.
It's actually scarier.
It's personal
than that. It's not global war. But that could be better. I don't know.
It's getting a little personal. But you know what? We'll muddle through. All right. So we're just all right. So for you in radio, you're going to have to just muddle through because you can't see this. But so since the pandemic, it started out as a dare, and now it's more of a fear. I have this paranoia of going to the barber shop to get my hair. So I haven't cut my hair, and so I'm. Yeah, so I haven't cut my hair, and it's bad. It's as bad can be. So those of you who can see it on TV, it's terrible. Christian wants me to turn sideways. I don't know if that's going to happen. So it's just grown out a little bit. I'm waiting for a little bit more time, so I'm a little more comfortable. However, it's starting to become an issue.
So for those of you who are on the radio and you're saying to yourself, "What in God's name are these two jokers talking about?" My partner in crime here, and by the way, this is a crime, is sporting what can be the equivalent. I think the teenage girls call it a low pony.
No, I think it's more.
It's a low pony.
I think it's more of like a founding fathers kind of.
It's a man bun in training is what it's basically working off of.
There's nothing manly about it,
and it's ridiculous, and it looks foolish, and it's embarrassing, but
you know what? It's just
here we are.
It's just
here we are.
Yeah.
Here we are.
Right. It's funny. I saw some of my friends the other day, and so now, like, whenever I see somebody I haven't seen in a while, the first thing I say is, "Hey, listen, don't give me a hard time about my hair. I know it looks bad, right?" And so one of the guys said, he goes, "What is that, a man bun?" And I go, "No. There's nothing manly about this. There's no manliness in this." So.
Yeah.
All right, so I apologize.
Any TV show you've watched where they're making fun of somebody and the butt of the joke is somebody sporting a man bun, that's what you're watching right here, right now.
Any TV show where you see somebody look like he did, 5 to 10 years of hard time in a federal prison,
hard labor,
same thing.
Or he runs a
couple less neck tattoos.
That's right. Yep. Or he runs a cult, or he runs something.
Cult leader.
That's right.
Yeah, cult leader.
Your cult leader.
Well, the cult leaders don't wear masks. They don't wear masks. They're, you know what? They don't believe in the coronavirus. So I get it. All right. So. We can talk about that all show if you want.
No, we can't.
But we won't.
No, please, no.
So here we are. We're back, and we are, as for many of you know, we record on Wednesdays. So this is the day of the inauguration. So the inauguration's happening. So there's some political hullabaloo that's happening in the world right now. So when you're listening to this or watching this on Saturday, all that will have happened. So I can't wait to see what's going to happen here in the future. It's very exciting. But of course, our job, we as the stewards of all things money and all things the law, our job is to carry on and to take everybody into the next chapter of the United States, the next chapter of the world, and to continue to educate you and to help you to understand the things that that are, they're not the most important things, but they're pretty important, and they kind of help everybody to kind of, as we say at the Main Effort Financial, to get where you want to go. So today, what is it that you want to talk about today, Mr. Attorney at Large?
So I want to talk about two things. Number one, I want to do a little promo here for an event that we're running next week. So we have a new event that we're running at the law firm. It's called, wait for it, Java with Jay.
Okay. I saw this.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, I can't wait.
So if you want to jump on a call we're going to run next week, which is basically we're going to talk about some planning techniques. We're going to talk about the title of the technique is it's about protecting your home, protecting one of your most valuable assets, and it's one planning tool and 3 benefits. That Zoom event is going to happen next Thursday on the 28th. contact the office and we'll get you scheduled. We'll get you the link out for that Zoom call, and you'll be able to participate in that next week over Zoom. And this is a regular feature that we're going to be running. And it's designed to be casual, but designed to be informative, much like this show, much like my colleague over here. And so that's the plan. So that's our next week, a little promo on an event that we're running, Java with Jay, next Thursday, the 28th. It's a monthly event, and it's going to be a topic that's obviously informative, informally presented, and also very helpful.
Yet informative.
And then what I was going to talk about today, unrelated to this.
What kind of Java Jay likes?
No. That's Jay likes free Java. Show up for free Java. But I also wanted to talk about what I'll talk about today is what we always talk about the issues. We always talk about the problems. We always talk about the things that go wrong if you do planning or if you don't do your planning. So one of the things that we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about we have a little bit of a case study, if you will, but it's an estate planning elder law success story, and the reason
I like it.
Well, that's right. I mean, in the spirit of the newness of the country, if you will, the sentiment that hopefully people feel today, sort of a rebirth of the nation, if you will. But we want to talk about what a success story looks like. We always talk about challenges, we always talk about risks, we always talk about possible problems, but we want to talk about what a success story looks like, and we'll also talk about some of the keys to the success and kind of what made it work and what helped this case be successful. We're not going to obviously disclose any confidential information, but we do want to talk about the concepts because there's a continuity to it. There's not a continuity. There's a consistency to how some of these success stories play out and to some of the other success stories. We've talked about it on the show before, which is you don't hear about these things, right? Because why? Because they're
boring.
Well, they're boring. That's right. They're not glamorous,
which
right?
is great.
I mean,
which is boring and simple, and this is the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah, we like boring because boring means that things are working the way they should work. But those aren't the things that people want to ask about. When you're at the barbecue or when you're sitting around. If we ever get back to that period of time where we actually can socialize in groups other than our immediate family, and you want to find out what's working. So that's the concept today. We're going to have a little bit of a discussion around a success story for why and how things can work out for you.
And we talk about that in our practice as well. Whenever there is a success story, whenever there is something that happens, and I try and make a fuss over the clients that it happens with, is we'll say, look, you guys are like, you're the poster children for how to do this. And some people, a lot of it is the personality, right? The people, and you
Sure.
kind of see these, with these clients, like a lot of these people are, they're leaning forward in the foxhole. They're on top of things. They're organized. And most of all, and some of them have had experience with it as well. Some of them have had experience of kind of dealing with an estate plan or administering, some sort of an estate, whether it be, parents or grandparents or things like that. So maybe they've had some experience and they've learned kind of some lessons, some valuable lessons along the way.
Well, you bring up that's actually a great point. One of the things that we see a lot for people who are really, you talk about somebody who's kind of on their game, if you will, and on the ball about it, is exactly what you just mentioned, right? They've already had sort of this brush with disaster, right? In some cases, it's a brush with disaster where they say, look, this was more difficult than I think it needed to be because there was very little work, done ahead of time. And then other people come in and say, we had a full-blown, family probate estate planning train wreck that we had to deal with because of, and there's a whole list of reasons why that happened. And so, but that's our job. Our job is to sort of triage some of that and sort of say, well, look, let's make sure it doesn't happen again and let's get in front of it. And then those people are usually the ones that are the most motivated to say, look, you're right. I don't want my kids to go through what I was put through myself. And that's
right. Well,
that's
how many times do you take on some new endeavor or something that you have no experience in, and you're like, oh, that's way harder than I thought. Like let's say you were getting ready to learn how to play the guitar, which some people may be getting ready to do, which I kind of my haircut could support. I was actually on a website, not to change the subject, but I will. I was on a website.
By the way, the reason for this change, I'm not sure if people remember this, but My colleague over here, for his birthday, his
Got a guitar.
53rd guitar, got a guitar.
Yeah.
So this is why,
Lifelong dream.
This is why this is now the discussion
Lifelong
that's
dream.
going to occupy
Lifelong dream.
most of our time week after week. But go ahead.
In my previous life or next life, I was a musician, and so I figured I'd start with guitar. I should learn many instruments, but I'll start with guitar just because it seems like it's the the path of least resistance. It costs the less. Yeah.
That's how you get the ladies.
Well, no, I mean it's
That's
not.
why you're doing it. I know.
No,
I sorry, Haley.
No, I'm doing
The hair,
this.
the guitar, something going on.
Yes, right.
Believe
Believe me, this hair will get. The only thing it's going to get is a dirty look. So but the idea of like where you start something and you're like, whoa, I didn't realize how difficult it was, or I didn't realize because I don't have any experience in it. And in a lot of people's defense, when they do like have to deal with some sort of probate issue or some kind of estate, ramification, it's their first time going through it. So there's which is why, although we joke about it, but it's why there's lawyers. It's why there's a system. It's why people have, careers where they're like, hey, look, I need to help you plan for the estate because there's so many different laws. There's so many different things that you need to take into consideration and so many things that can affect you. And again, all it is, it's just that we want to, this is what I want to see happen after I pass away. This is what I want to see happen for my family and for my loved ones and for everything that I work for through my life. So this is, it's real. It's something that takes some work, but I'm excited about kind of learning some, seeing a success story, and maybe people can take some good points from that.
Well, and there's a bunch. To your point, there's a bunch of ways that it can happen, right? There's the easy way and there's the hard way, right? And so,
all the ways in between.
That's right. That's right. And so, what we try to talk about is, look, let's try to make this easy on the folks who might actually get the job and have to do the work, and let's make it easy on you, who might need some help administering assets and having your if something happens and you need to be taken care of, what's the best way to do that? You don't want to make it more work. And we see, to your point, we see all kinds of situations where we say, geez, with a little bit of effort on the front end, we could have made this now very difficult situation infinitely easier on you and the people that you're dealing with. So again, you as you get older, you sort of say to yourself, let's bring in the pros, let's bring in the people who know what they're talking about, and let's delegate some of this stuff. So that's the idea.
Great stuff. We're going to take a quick break with Christian, by the way, who is, I noticed that Christian, you always are sporting your HCAT uniform, right? That you come in uniform.
He represents.
Yeah, you represent. So Christian's here, of course, with House and Cable Access TV. We are on MyFM 101.3. This is Money and Law with Jay Marsden and John Drouin. We'll be right back. Don't go away to learn more about some. We're going to have some success. We're going to talk about success, right? I love it. Yep. Success. Yep. That's what main effort. It breeds, it reinforces success.
Yep.
We'll be right back.
And we're back. MyFM 101.3. Jay Marsden with the Marsden Law Group. John Drohan, Main Effort Financial. Christian steering us through the cosmos. We're talking on this fantastic.
How are we going through the cosmos?
Inauguration day today. A big change going. A lot happening. And we'd like to wish, obviously, our president and our vice president and all their families and all their family members, wish them all well and wish them success in all the challenges and the undertakings that they will be tasked with over the next 4 years. They got a lot on their plate, and so we wish them well, and we wish them and we wish our outgoing administration. We wish them success in their future endeavors as well.
That's right. A great article I read in the Washington Post today about the letters. About the letters that presidents leave for the incoming president,
Sure.
right? So they had reviewed some of the letters, that like the letters that that George Bush left for Bill Clinton, and then and they are truly heartwarming letters.
Yes.
Like heartwarming. So if you can get to, and I don't have it in front of it, if you can get to the Washington Post or online, look that up with the Washington Post articles that talks about the letters. So the tradition is that the outgoing president will leave a letter in the Oval Office for the incoming president. It's usually a Dear Bill, Dear George, that kind of thing.
When you read this, you'll be the president.
Yeah, as you're reading this, you're now the president, and it's huge. And the letters are all of them. We're very encouraging and very hey, listen, if you need help, please don't hesitate. That kind of thing. Oh, and to me, that was one of those. It was one of those. At the end of the day, right? Those guys, no matter what side of the aisle you're on, once you become president and you've had that responsibility and you've had the gravity of what that job entails, I'm sure that, and you see it, like all the, in our lifetime, all the surviving presidents, sure, they're all friends.
Yeah.
They're all like, hey, I know what it was like. That sucked. That was hard. That was, and because they have this common experience that's so, only a handful of people will ever truly understand.
Well, there's actually, I forget the name of the book, but there is a book out about that. It talks about something like, most exclusive club in the world or something like that. And it goes on to address exactly that issue, which is, you get 4 or 5 people in the entire world who are the only ones who can relate to what you are experiencing or going through as the current sitting president. And I think they talked about how it's only been since, I think, maybe Carter, where there's been that sense of real camaraderie and a willingness to sort of reach out to one of your predecessors and say, hey, I got a couple of questions for you. You got a minute? I'm just trying to figure out this nuclear war thing here. You got a second? And that's not something that happened a lot,
Do you remember where you left those numbers or some? Yeah, I was
looking
looking
around.
codes
I'm looking for. I mean, but I mean, it's to your point. It's and then it goes on to talk about some of I guess there's a townhouse down in D.C. I believe that is actually for the exclusive use of former presidents.
So
if they happen
cool.
to swing into town and they're in town for some event and it's designed for, now I'm not sure how they work out, who gets it when they get it. I don't know if they got a calendar. I don't know if you walk up and you see a sock hanging on the door and you're like, oh, I guess Bill Clinton's here this weekend. I might have to stay away.
I'll tell you exactly what that is. That is a Secret Service party center, right? So when the boys aren't in town, the Secret Service is like, well, I know that no one's in there tonight.
They're
so
hanging out at the big house.
That's where all those big Secret Service poker games happen.
That's right.
All night Goodfellas like poker games. Yeah.
You roll in there, they got 30-year-old scotch. They got a big cigar, humidor. Come on,
you know what? I don't blame them. I don't blame them. Right?
Rightfully
Secret
so.
Service.
Yeah,
right?
rightfully
Secret
so.
Service.
Yeah, these guys work hard.
The book that I'm reading right now is the Bill Alder biography about Jimmy Carter.
Oh yeah.
Can't put it down.
Nice.
Like you
Nice.
can't put it down. Like you talk about when for all of what Carter, all of like the the Jimmy Carter legacy and his presidential a one-term president, right?
Yeah,
so
sure.
again, he's the last one. Well, no, George Bush was the last one-term president, but the whole idea of like if you're a one-term president, then you're like, well, you're kind of a loser. And Jimmy Carter, as you learn about all the things that he did and just like what type of a person that he was, and how he was just such an awkward politician,
right? And
he wasn't a great politician, but
right.
which is kind of a tribute to what he did post presidency, which is as much of a legacy as he did before he was president. So,
one of the greatest interviews or one of the greatest comments I ever heard an ex-president make during an interview was they were talking to Carter and they were asking him questions about the Iranian hostage crisis, and they were talking about all the issues that he faced and how he was kind of a lot of people would say that he was considered somewhat impotent during that period because he was unable to execute on getting those guys out of there and solving that problem. And Carter said during the interview, he said, "Wait a minute, take his time out." He goes, "Do you think for one second that I didn't realize that I had the power to literally level the entire country? Yeah. I mean, if I wanted to unleash, the fires of hell,
to invade Iran,
if I wanted to do it, I could have done it. That was not the objective. The objective was to get these guys back and have every single one of them come home alive. Mm-hmm. And that made obviously that our decisions were different and our decisions were more difficult. But he said, you think for one second I couldn't have, rain down the fire of a nuclear holocaust on that country and solve the problem?" And he goes, and I was given that, those suggestions were made to me, and I chose a different path. So to your point, right, when you're sitting there and it's easy to say, let's go do that, you can only really look back and commiserate with a couple of people who have made, have been in that position to make those calls and say, well, look at all your options, and is it going to work or is it not going to work?
I'd love to take to have a show and dedicate it to kind of that, that kind of historical analysis of the president. Sure. I mean, because we have some things to talk about today, but I could go on all day long about it. All day.
So I just wrapped up Titan, John D. Rockefeller. You want to read a good book? Right there. There you go.
Another great story, right?
Another 20th century, like bigger than life, larger than life. So if you're looking for good reading while you're in lockdown the next 2 months till the sun comes out, and there's a couple right there for you.
Lockdown could happen again.
So
All right.
So we're talking about success stories. So one of the keys to the success story that we're going to talk about right now is, and we talk about it all the time, you beat me to it, pre-planning. You got to look ahead a couple of moves, right? You got to sort of figure out, look, we always talk about, plan for the worst, hope for the best. What do you think's going to happen? So we had a client some years back that wanted to make sure a couple of things happened. Number one, they wanted to make sure that they were able to leave a legacy to their children or to their grandchildren. That was the goal, right? The goal was leave a legacy to my family. That's what I want to have happen. Number two, make sure that if something happens to me, I have the flexibility to give people the ability to help me out if that's what needs to happen, right? And that was the idea. The idea was be flexible. The third thing that they talked about, or the third thing that we talked about that they remembered that helped them out quite a bit was they got their family involved. And the family was all pulling the rope in the same direction. The family was all on board with the idea that they said, look, the goal is to take care of our loved one. That's the primary goal. The goal is not to get some money out of this, even though that, so that it was interesting because you had these two, not competing goals, but you had my client who says, look, I want to make sure I leave a legacy. And then you have the other family saying, look, the legacy that's the client's goal, but we're not really focused on that. That's not our reason for being. Our reason for being is to make sure that our loved one is taken care of, and whatever it takes to do that, let's do that, right? So we had a situation.
So that's helpful.
Yes.
I mean, when you and we talked about this, ad nauseum on the show, but that is where, when everybody is on the same page, and this starts with, when we talk about pre-planning, it starts with like kind of doing this, not when you're up against some deadline or up against some time crunch where you have to make a decision. So when it's like, hey, listen, hey guys, I know we're watching football right now, or but we need to talk about this. I know, there's no real good time to talk about this, but this is, we just want to set the table to let you know that this is what Mom and I are thinking about doing.
That's right.
And we want you guys to be a part of it. And, what you find is like, as long as it comes in that approach, and then, and if the family is somewhat getting along, but if, at the end of the day, your client, the people who are actually doing the estate planning, it's their decision. So if they establish, hey, this is what we want to happen, we want you guys to be part of it.
Yep.
But if you don't want to be part of it, this is still what we want to happen. Or, we encourage your feedback, and then we'll make a decision, kind of the way decisions are supposed to be made in any situation.
That's right. And one of the key things was, we've talked about the pre-planning issue. So they had done the pre-planning, right? They had done the pre-planning. They had identified some assets or an asset that they wanted to protect. And they did it well in advance of that 5-year look back that we talk about all the time, right? So by doing that, by sort of making a decision that says, look, this is the asset that I have, or these are the assets that I have, and I want to protect these. And I'm willing to do that. I'm willing to change the way I own this property. I'm willing to change the way these assets are owned by me, and follow the rules as they're outlined, as far as what I can do in terms of giving these things away. And I'm comfortable doing that because I have good family that work with me. I have a good support system. I have people that I don't have to worry about the fact that they're making the decisions for the right reasons. And then they're also respectful of my decisions, right? So the first thing we were able to do was we were able to identify an asset or some assets that we knew we wanted to protect. And so we checked that box. That was a big part of the success. We did it early, and we did it in a way that made sense for down the road, because the understanding was, look, we hope that nobody gets sick, and we hope that nobody needs long-term care. But what we really wanted to, not so much hope, but what we wanted to plan for, and you've said this on the show a million times, right? Hope is not a plan. We said, look, this is what we want. We want to leave a legacy, and this is how we're going to do it. So we made the decision. That was step one. Make the decision and do it early. And by doing it early, we were able to get the necessary or the required protections on some assets.
And another important part of that is that all sounds well and good, but it's really important. This is why, your attorney is going to be able to, guide you through this. They're going to say, okay, yeah, everybody wants to protect their assets. In the perfect world, like, oh, do you want to give away all your money to the long-term care, institution or anything like that? No, I don't want to do that. Of course not. I want to protect my assets. But at the same time, it's the identification of what assets you can protect and how that's going to affect because remember, you're doing this, we're all doing this in the hopes that no one wants to go to a long-term care situation. No one says, oh, I'm absolutely, you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know if you're going to end up in that kind of situation. It may never come to fruition that you may have needed to do this.
And by the way, the idea of somebody getting sick, going to nursing home, that was not even when we started this. That wasn't even on the radar screen. This wasn't 1 foot in the nursing home planning, and let's try to make sure we hopefully cross our fingers and get to the 5-year. I mean, this was a real and realistic look into the future that says, look, this is what I want to do. This is my plan. I want to protect this. I have others. I have other stuff. Yeah. But that stuff I need to live my life. So
exactly, and that's my point. Is being able to having a full understanding. Okay, look, if I protect this in the way that you guys are going to talk about protecting it, then how am I limited? What are my limitations? Now, how does that restricting me from using this or being able? And how is going to affect me moving forward? Because now I'm in my retirement. I'm about to enter my retirement.
That's right.
And remember, those are the golden years, right? This is part. You're not doing this and saying I'm checking out in 5 years. You're doing this and then I'm going to retire and we're going to live as long as we're going to live and hopefully we're healthy and all that other stuff. But this is like it's being able to differentiate. Okay. What can I protect, and what are the pros and cons of being able to protect us?
And a good advisor, to your point, a good advisor is going to ask that question. And by the way, a good advisor is also going to say, I'm not sure that we should worry about protecting some assets. If you need these assets to subsidize your lifestyle in retirement, we may not have a protection opportunity, or we may only really be able to protect a smaller piece of the puzzle. Because again, we talk about this all the time. It's not about impoverishing you in an attempt to maybe save some assets for a situation that might not happen, right? So that was the first thing, was early on recognize the goal and then actually put the plan into place by figuring out what are we going to try to protect here, and then let's identify it and then let's do it, right? Let's just not think about it, let's do it, right? So that was the first part that made the plan very, very successful. The second part that made the plan very successful was, in addition to the identification of the assets that we needed to have in place, we also had a very buttoned up and very accurate estate plan that identified if somebody needs to be involved making decisions, if this person who's trying to protect the assets and do the planning can't make decisions, do we have all the documentation in place so that we know who would be able to make those decisions?
Yeah, and how many times is that like a byproduct, or is that something that's kind of, and I'm not saying that's how you guys do it in your practice, but in many times people don't give that as much thought as they should, or they don't give it as much as attention as they should, because it's like, hey, you know what? That's a realistic thing where you could find yourself in a situation where you can't really make decisions. People say, I need a will. I want to make sure that that my this gets this and this goes there and all that other stuff, and they kind of care about the money. But when it comes to decision making, that's a big it's not oftentimes it's one of those progressive things where you get to the point where you're like, I need help, or I need to get in a position.
It's funny you said that. It's a want versus need, right? We see people that come in all the time and they say, this is what I want. I want to have a will. And then we say, okay, well, can we ask some questions? Sure, what questions do you want to ask? Well, then we go through a whole series of questions, right?
Three questions.
Do you have all these other things in place? These are the things that we worry about. These are the things that we see. And then at the end of that, and we try to tell clients, look, we're not trying to kind of like, talk up the plan, and we're not trying to like sell you up to a more expensive, version of an estate plan, right? I mean, what we're saying is, these are the things that we see happen all the time, right? I mean, think of it if you're buying a car, right? If your job is as a landscaper, buying a Ford Escape might not be the best use of your dollars in terms of what you need to get the job done.
How many ladders can I get on the top of this?
That's right. How many bags of mulch can I fit in the F-150? versus this,
a
small
trunk of
Yaris,
my-
right, or whatever it is, right?
Trunk
That's
of
right.
my Camry.
That's right. Do I have the, so we had a long conversation, again, as part of this case study, this success story, to say, look, these are the things that we need to put in place. We need to make sure that your estate plan is updated. We need to make sure that we have all the right people named or who are involved in the plan initially. And then we always, and this is something that we see all the time with clients who come in and say, like, I already have a power of attorney, Jay, so, dispense with your upsell of how I need to update my power of attorney and my healthcare policy.
You don't know.
I already have those,
You don't know.
And so in this case here, we had, as we always recommend, we had a primary and we had a backup, okay? And as the plan unfolded, it became very important that we had a primary and a backup because something happened to our primary. And our primary was in a position where they were unable to sort of effectuate the plan and carry out the plan.
Did you say effectuate?
Effectuate.
That's a great word.
And so we, as we talked about it, right, we had identified assets that we wanted to protect, and we protected them. We identified who the players would be, who was going to be involved in the plan, and who was going to be able to make decisions as time went on. And then if somebody couldn't make decisions, did we have somebody in the on-deck circle who could step in and say, you know what, I can help out. And that's what happened, okay?
This is the success.
This is the success. And here's, I mentioned the importance of having the family involved. The family and the people who are making the decisions and the players, very, very important. But here's another thing that went a long way towards making this plan very successful. And it was constant contact and communication with us as the lawyers, right? Now, again, I'm not saying that, obviously I am saying that us as the lawyers is the gold standard. That's how we like to position it, right?
That's the rumor.
But the important thing is it's constant contact with the advisors and the people
So what do you mean
who can help you make
constant
decisions.
contact? So
what I mean by constant contact is if something happened and they just didn't know what the impact of that something was, we get a phone call.
Yep.
We would get an email. This is what's going on. Somebody had a health event. Somebody went to the hospital. But we think they're going to come home. They're not going to stay at the hospital. But this is kind of where things were going. So we were involved in the changes to these situations. And we talk about this all the time. You got to be flexible, right? We were involved in the changes in this client situation all the way through the process. So every time something happened, we get a phone call that said, look, we want to kind of find out, do we need to do anything as a result of this changing situation? And again, it wasn't just for our client. It was for a changing situation in the people who were working and helping and handling things on behalf of the client. So we were triaging a couple of situations, and we knew we had the right people in place, and we knew we had the right documentation in place to allow for some flexibility and to allow this situation to unfold the way it did. But it was because it all went back to they had done the pre-planning, they had done the work, and then they got people involved. They didn't just put it on a shelf and forget about it. They called us all the way along the way to say, this is what's going on, and this is what we need to handle, this is what we need to take care of. Do we need to do anything? And then we were able to come back to them and say, well, as a result of this new information that is sort of developed in your plan, this is what we need to do. Sometimes it's a lot, sometimes it's a little. Sometimes it was, much more of a bigger tweak to the plan, and sometimes it was just some small sort of, fixes up around the edges.
Yeah, and the important thing is, remember, so when someone does an estate plan, if they do it correctly and they do it kind of well ahead of time, what are they going to do? Even if they got everybody involved, after they do the estate plan, they're going to forget about it, right?
Yeah.
They're going to be like, yep, I did it. I know I did it. I did my estate plan, and now I'm going to forget about that. I'm going to go move on and live the rest of my life. If I'm let's say if my mother did an estate plan, or like my parents, or some type of where I'm like a secondary person. It's not my estate plan,
right?
But I was read in on it, and I was consulted on it, and I was told, hey, listen, just so you know, you're going to be the executor of my, you're the guardian of my children, and blah blah blah. And I'm like, great, I agree, I understand what my responsibilities are, and then it gets wrapped up. And then I'm going to forget about it, or it's going to put it in the back of my mind. It's not something that I'm going to be. I'm not going to sit there and I'm going to I'm not going to study it, and I'm not going to review it every 6 months or anything like that. So that's why, when it's time for that estate plan to get executed or looked at, or at least reevaluated or revisited. That's why it's important that you've done this and that your attorney's like, hey, just so you know, it's my job to really understand what's supposed to happen with your estate plan. This is what we do. Okay, so yeah. So guess what? If you have a question about something or if something happens, call me. I'm the first person you need to call, because then I can say, hey, remember, 10 years ago when we did your estate plan, we were positioned for something like this to happen. And oh, by the way, let's remind everybody, this is who the person is who we need to contact. And then you'll ask the question, or the attorney will ask the question. They'll say, are they ready to go? Because we may have to call them. They may have to pinch hit right now.
Yeah.
And they'll say, whoa, no, he's or she is, overseas, or, is deployed somewhere, or right now is going through a hard time and can't do it, or has some health issues themselves.
Yeah.
Okay. That's okay, because we have batter number 2, and they can pinch hit. And like, okay. And so you have that, all of this is kind of put in place well ahead of time. But the attorney, that's their job. Their job is to say, okay, yeah, we got it. We got your estate plan, and we understand it. So, but the point is that if this is something that you're going to do and kind of fire and forget, we always encourage our clients that, look, every year we'll say, hey, we know you did your estate plan, and then just kind of ask the questions like, has anything changed? Is there anything that we might need to update? Is there anything that we need to consult your attorney with, or we may have to relook? Like, all your beneficiaries are the same, your executors the same, all of like the trustee of your trust, if you've done trust work, all of those things probably need to be revisited, or at least just kind of checked off to say, make sure, okay, there hasn't been any changes, and if there have been changes, then then again, all you're doing is you're updating your plan, and you're kind of staying on, and you're staying in front of it for the event. Who knows when that's going to happen?
Well, even the degree of the changes, right? I mean, one of the questions that we get all the time at the office is, so and so moved. All the time, right? Somebody moved. Do we need to redo our documents? The answer is no, right? The address does not drive the document, right? The person who you named, that's what drives the document, right? If we have to do some affidavits and things like that to sort of prove that they are who they say they are, then that's fine. We can do that. But the things like that, that's not a major change. That's not something that we need to turn the apple cart over and fix this whole thing up. But other things that you mentioned, those are big deals. Changes in people's health, changes in who's going to make the decisions, changes in the primary, the client's, health is going to sort of guide us, down the road as to where we're going to go. And so we had all the right documentation in place to address all those issues. And we were in, however people want to define constant contact, but we were in regular contact with the family, and we knew what was going on, and they kept us surprised. And they knew that, once we get those calls a couple of times, and somebody says, okay, now I know that, first of all, calling you is providing some insight as to what our next steps are going to look like, and we're not. They become more comfortable, calling and asking questions, and then that way we're able to sort of triage any things that come up, big or small, and address those issues.
All right, so let's take a quick break. Yeah, we'll take a quick break, and we'll come back and we'll finish it. We'll hear the rest of the success story that happened right in Holliston at the Marston Law Group. Right, I mean,
great stuff.
Yep, all about success. All right, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
And we're back. Money in the Law, My FM 101.3. Jay Marsden with the Marsden Law Group. John Drohan and his ponytail.
You know what? It's
Marsden Law and Main Effort Financial and whatever that thing is. Anyway, whatever. Here we go. So we're back. We're talking about a couple of
hair envy is not becoming of you. It is not.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
No, it's not. So we're talking about success stories. We're talking about the importance of what key to a particular case study we had where we had a fair amount of success.
Estate planning success story.
Estate planning elder law success story. Yep. Estate planning elder law success story. So we had success because they had done the planning early on. We had identified assets that we wanted to protect. We had buy-in and complete support and a total lack of dysfunction because everybody in the family was on board and everybody was pulling the rope in the same direction. And then we had the proper necessary documentation to allow for the care of the client and to make sure that all the client's needs could be addressed and taken care of. And then as the situation sort of progressed itself, the right people could make the right decisions at the right time. So our client ultimately ended up going, unfortunately, into a nursing home. But it was well after the 5-year look back. So we had a substantial amount of success in terms of the applicability, in terms of applying for Mass Health, and things that we had done in anticipation of the
So review
of the
what
process.
happened. So just give me like the 30 seconds. So once someone is identified that they have to go into a long-term care situation, what happens?
So they go to a long-term care facility. They need the care that's provided at a long-term care facility. So 2 things have to happen. You need to qualify clinically, which means you need a nursing home. You need to be in a nursing home. You need to have the healthcare needs that require that, or healthcare needs that require a long-term care placement in a facility. And you got to be eligible financially, right? You got to have either spent down your money, or you got to have followed the rules that say, look, this is what you can do in terms of giving away your money and 5-year lookbacks and getting money out of your name and retitling assets. And you need to do those things.
Well, the first thing that happens is that like you said, is that they qualify. They have to go to a long-term care facility.
They need the care.
Yeah, they need the care. So whatever.
By the way, prior to the going of the nursing home, we had done everything we could to provide the care in the client's home, which is what the client wanted, right?
Sure.
So we had done a substantial amount of in-home care, which is where everybody wants to be, right? We tell everybody you want to be on your couch watching Law & Order or on your TV. That's what you want, right? So we had done that for a long period of time.
How come we're not watching like Bloomberg, the finance report?
Nope. You get an advisor for that. You get an advisor for that, right? So this is what happened. So we did a lot of care at home. We provided a lot of care at home. We brought in the support services. We used the money that we had left out. We talk about this not impoverishing your client. We used a lot of the money that we had left out to care for this person in their home, and the family was supportive of that, and we had all the pieces in place to allow that to go on. And people say, well, how long is that going to go on, Jay? Well, the answer is it'll go on until it can't go on anymore. Right?
Yeah,
everybody has a different threshold for when that's going to work, right? So when we reached the point where the care at home just wasn't going to work anymore, it was kind of getting unsafe, and we want our client obviously to be safe, and we always want our clients to be in the most independent setting they can be. But we had reached the point now where it made sense for us to sort of move on to the nursing home piece of it. So we had, again, we had done the work ahead of time, and we had the tools necessary to make the application process relatively straightforward. So we did that. We followed the rules. We applied for Mass Health for the client. They went to a nursing home, and they were accepted, and they were approved by Mass Health. And then they followed all the rules that Mass Health makes you follow in terms of getting approved, and then allowing that to be how the care would be handled.
Right. So you obviously did the pre-planning. So there were assets that were positioned long before the 5-year look back.
Correct.
So what tell us what happened.
Well,
with those assets.
we're well outside the 5-year look back. So when you've done that, when you've done that pre-planning and you've put assets outside of, from accountability perspective for the Medicaid process, those assets don't count, right? So you've identified a piece of real estate. You've identified some liquid assets to say, look, these are the assets I want to get the protection on. These are the assets I want to get that 5-year look back going on. Those things don't, when you're adding up the assets for a Medicaid application for Mass Health to do that process, those things don't count.
So you put those into an irrevocable trust.
Yeah, we did some planning. We retitled some of them. That's right. So we retitled them in such a way that they were not counted when it came time to count up the assets for Medicaid.
So when we explain that to clients, essentially what that means is that technically those assets are no longer yours. So if it's retitled into somebody else's name, maybe their children or something, or if it's put into an irrevocable trust where you're not the trustee of the irrevocable trust, then by the letter of the law, technically, you no longer own those assets.
Correct.
Now, you may be able to benefit from those assets, whether it be remain in the house or to generate dividend or interest income from amount of money that's in an irrevocable trust, but you no longer have control of those assets, and that may be fine, and that may be the right answer. Because we get this all the time, especially people who've kind of had this scare or have kind of seen people have to spend down all their money because they went into a long-term care situation. And they're like, oh yeah, we definitely don't want that to happen.
Right.
We want to. Oh, and my friend said their attorney put their money into a irrevocable trust, or they gave all their money away to their kid, or they did some type of kind of planning in order to avoid having to to pay for the cost of the nursing home. In order, technically, or really what you're trying to do is to enable yourself to be able to qualify for mass health. And in this case, if you live in Massachusetts, to qualify for mass health. And that's...
Well, what you're doing is you're saying, look, if this happens to me, I don't know, if you do it, we talked about obviously doing it with enough foresight. You're basically saying, look, I don't know if this is going to happen to me. I may or may not get on that path. I may or may not need a nursing home at some point in the future. But if I do, I basically want to have done the planning that I'm allowed to do ahead of time.
Yeah, and it's okay. I mean, and it's not as if it's not like you're kind of you're breaking the law, or it's not like there's
fast one.
It's not like you're trying to skirt the system. It's a big decision. If you put your house into an irrevocable trust, and the trust remains irrevocable, that means that you can't sell your house and go buy another house.
You're not in control anymore.
Yeah, and that may be fine for your situation, but people, when someone says to me, yeah, we don't want to give up, we don't want to lose this house. And I'm like, okay, I get it. The first question I'll ask is, do you see yourself leaving this house? Or do you see yourself changing your, moving to like where your kids move or something like that? Well, we don't know. We may end up doing that. Then I'm like, and I say this, if I'm you, I don't put my house into an irrevocable trust because I don't want to limit myself to be stuck here.
That's
or
right.
I don't want to give up that asset because I may need it in order to buy my house that I'm going to move to in California or in Nevada or Florida, wherever I'm going to end up moving to.
That's right.
So you're not. It sounds cool when Jay tells the story about the success story, and yeah, we were able to, the people went to the nursing home, but they were able to preserve all these assets. That's great, but it comes at a I don't want to say a cost, but
there were real decisions that were made.
Yeah.
People recognized I'm giving up something to potentially benefit from something down the road. But to your point, that decision comes with real consequences, right?
And they may be perfectly acceptable consequences.
Yeah. But they can also be consequences that turn into one of these disaster stories, right? Because we've seen those as well. So, this is just talking about sort of a situation where the planets lined up in a lot of the right ways, and what we felt like were the things that made this plan successful. And if these things apply to you, if you're willing to make some of these decisions ahead of time, if you have, no family dynamic that would create problems like this, if you know that you can get your estate planning buttoned up, this success story, this could be you, right? This could be the result that everybody sort of hopes for. Because this whole thing started off by saying, look, we can tell you a million bad stories, but let's tell you a good one. Let's tell you a positive one, right? So in this situation here,
a positive story where somebody ends up in a nursing home, you're like, yeah, well, positive enough, right?
Well, it's a positive outcome of a very challenging situation.
Yeah, and
right?
it's positive because it's what your client wanted, right? Your clients, your client was able to do enough planning early on.
That's right.
To be able to put themselves and the plan for this contingency. If this contingency happens, then at least I'm not going to be losing this property or this property that I.
Well, and again,
because again, remember the first thing you wanted is that they wanted to leave a legacy.
What's your goal, right? Yeah, what's your goal? What's your goal? Now, if the goal is I want to spend all my money on myself and I don't ever, well, that's another goal. That's a different conversation. That's a different planning technique,
right.
Or it's a different, And in this objective here, at some point, we try to tell clients, and we have clients that come in all the time and say, I don't ever want to go to a nursing home. And my answer to that is, well, we can do everything we can to try to do that. But remember, it's your health. And at some point, your health, which is your health drives the plan, if your health needs get to the point where that's really the only best, safest environment for you, what would you rather? Would you rather be in a dangerous situation that's going to potentially put your life at risk?
Yeah.
Or would you rather be in a situation where you're getting the care that you need? And yes, it's not what we wanted, but it's, it is what it is, right? So in this case here, so again, the client went to the nursing home. They were fine. This wasn't they understood the whole rationale for why their health needs put them there, and they adapted really well, and it worked okay. And their family was able to come and see them and spend a lot of time with them, and they weren't certainly alone by any stretch of the imagination, and they were able to kind of integrate into the community, and it worked out really well for them. And then at some point, life, we're all here for a finite period of time. When the client passed on, they were able to do a whole bunch of things. They were able to leave the legacy that they wanted to their family. with the assets that they had protected and had the foresight to protect. We avoided probate on everything. There was no trip to probate court because we had everything lined up. Everything had been put in the right position. Everything had been titled the right way. And so when it came time to sort of cleaning everything up and then liquidating some of the assets and things like that, we still had all the authority and all the people in place and all the documentation that we needed to affect the entire transaction. And so what prompted this conversation was when I went back and I was going through the file and getting ready to sort of close everything up, I thought to myself, boy, I'll tell you.
Good job, Jay.
Well, it wasn't so much a good job, Jay, but it was a reflection on, I said to myself,
this is what it's supposed to.
Well, what made this situation here? What made this plan so successful? Because when we do this planning for people, this is really what we try to tell people. We said, look, the importance of the pre-planning is this. The importance of having your family on board is this. The importance of making sure we have all the right players in place is this. The importance of being flexible if something happens and the situation changes is this. And then the outcome you want to be this.
Sure.
And so when we looked back on it, we thought to ourselves, let's try to sort of find some of these milestones that came in this plan that really helped make this thing work. And those were the things that made it work. And to your point, as much as you see the same things over and over again that create a negative situation, there are some commonalities to situations that end up being very successful, and this was one of those cases. Yeah. This was one of those situations. And so people ask all the time, what do I need to do to avoid this? There you go.
And just like anything, what you need to do. Oftentimes the thing that gets you don't see coming anyway, right? So really what you're trying to do is you're trying to, all of the potential likely contingencies that could happen, you want to at least acknowledge them. And, we oftentimes, clients, they say, well, yeah, I want to protect assets. I want to leave a legacy. We may turn around and say, I get it, but I don't think you can. I don't think that needs to be your priority. We can talk about it, and you can want to do it. And if things work out, A, B, C, and D, then you can leave a legacy. However, if they work out E, F, and G, then you potentially won't be able to leave a legacy.
That's right.
So, all of these things are addressed and talked about, and again, it all comes back because you're going to have to make decisions, and it's far easier to make decisions, which you can always change, but it's far easier to make decisions like ahead of time before you're kind of pressed up against some sort of a deadline or some sort of an issue or some sort of a hard stop where you have to make this decision.
If you want to leave a legacy, let's make a plan to leave a legacy. Let's figure out what the plan is going to look like so that you can leave that legacy. If we leave it to chance, if we had left all of that to chance, right? What would have happened is the client would have had, let's say they retained control of the assets their entire life. They never made the plan, right? Then we would have ended up right where we see clients end up all the time, which is my loved one needs to go to a nursing home. We didn't do anything to protect the house. We don't have any of the proper documentation that we need to help affect taking care of them, never mind try to put a plan together. And what happens if we need to go to a nursing home? We want to try to avoid something.
Yeah.
And then the assets would be there, up for grabs, which is fine. That's a decision that the clients make. And then the probability or the possibility of a legacy still might exist, but it exists at a much lower level, either from a probability perspective or from an actual legacy perspective. And then we would have had to jump through probate court, and we had to get somebody appointed. We had all this other stuff. And so we were able to really kind of affect the client's long-term goals and wishes. I mean, this was a plan that unfolded over the course of, I want to say, probably 7 or so years, 8 or so years, where, we were involved, we stayed involved, we kind of updated things as need be. And this is how this whole thing developed. And again, when they develop over that long a period of time, it really comes down to the client's foresight to say, look, this is what I wanted to do. This is how I wanted to have it happen, and they did it, and to their credit, and to the benefit of their family long term. So that's the framework of a successful estate/elder law plan. And if anybody wants to talk about how your plan can be that successful, you know where to find us. You know where to find us.
All right. So that's going to wrap it up for today.
Let's do it.
All right. Congratulations once again on on the United States of America, entering a new chapter in the
chapter.
you know, in this wonderful experiment that we are all fortunate to be a part of. Thank you for joining us today, Christian Hollis and Cable Access TV. On behalf of my dear esteemed colleague Jay Marsden from the Marsden Law Group, I'm John Drohan. You're listening to Money in the Law. We'll see everybody next Saturday.
God bless
next
America.
Saturday. God bless the
bless
United
America.
States
That's
of
right.
America. We'll see everybody next
great
week.
week, everybody.
Thanks for joining.